Welcome to CNN 10. We are 10 minutes of news explained, and I'm your host, Carl Azuz. News was breaking as we put this show together. A number of suspicious packages caused alarm and evacuations Wednesday, and a major government effort to find out who's responsible. The people they were addressed to included former U.S. President Barack Obama, 2016 Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton, former Attorney General Eric Holder, former CIA Director John Brennan, and California Democratic Representative Maxine Waters. The package labeled for former CIA Director Brennan was sent to CNN at New York City's Time Warner Center. That led to the evacuation of CNN's New York bureau. Several of the packages had the same return address, the Florida office of Democratic U.S. Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz. That return address was also on a package delivered to the home of George Soros earlier this week. He's a billionaire investor and major donor to the Democratic Party. Officials do not suspect that Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz sent the packages. Devices found inside several of the packages appeared to be pipe bombs. That's according to an FBI counterterrorism agent in New York. Law enforcement officials say it looks like they were made in the same way. All of them were intercepted before any of the people they were addressed to could open them. No one was hurt. In the past, President Donald Trump has criticized several of the people the packages were addressed to. But on Wednesday, he said that threats or acts of political violence had no place in America. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio called the mailings an act of terror, and the FBI is asking anyone who might have information on those responsible to contact them. Next, this Thursday, we've reported on the rising tensions between Russia and the allies of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which the U.S. is part of. The commander of the U.S. naval forces in Europe says one thing that concerns him when it comes to Russia is submarine warfare. Why? For one thing, he says 6 of the Russian subs operating in the Black Sea or the Eastern Mediterranean Sea have a type of missile that could reach any of the capitals of Europe. That's likely to be on the minds of other NATO commanders as they begin their largest military exercise since 2002. It's called Operation Trident Juncture. It launches Thursday in Norway and the region around it. CNN's Fred Pleitgen is in Iceland to report on what's taking place both on and under the surface.
The Yuri Dolgoruki nuclear submarine, one of Russia's newest, on the prowl. Test-firing intercontinental ballistic missiles from under the sea, putting America and its allies on notice.
They're letting us know that they're out there. They're operating in much greater numbers in places that they have not operated before.
As tensions between the U.S. and Russia rise, America says it's not overly concerned about Vladimir Putin's fleet of warships, but that the stealthy and powerful subs pose a serious threat to American and allied navies, supply lines, and even ports. America is reacting, sending its most advanced P-8 anti-submarine planes to the northern Atlantic region and spending $34 million upgrading this base in Iceland, where CNN was given exclusive access.
The ocean is big. It's a chess match between the sub-commander and all the ASW assets that are trying to find them.
Submarines are now one of the centerpieces of Russia's Navy, the U.S. says, like the massive Oscar class, nicknamed the Carrier Killer because its mission is destroying U.S. aircraft carriers. And the modernized Kilo class, now capable of carrying cruise missiles. CNN was on hand when Kilos launched several off the coast of Syria, hitting ISIS targets hundreds of miles away. A threat America has to respect and react to, the U.S. top naval commander for Europe and Africa tells CNN.
We can no longer take for granted that we can sail with impunity in all of the oceans, whether it be the North Atlantic, the Baltic, the Black Sea, the Mediterranean, or the Arctic Ocean.
The U.S. says it won't be intimidated by Russia's resurgent submarine fleet, but it is rallying allies to get serious about countering Moscow's underwater moves. Fred Pleitgen, CNN, Reykjavik, Iceland.
10-second trivia. What is the correct pronunciation of this word? Is it A, Schadenfreude, B, Schadenfreude, C, Schadenfreude, or D, Schadenfreude? The answer is B, Schadenfreude, a German term for when someone laughs at the misfortune of someone else. There's a news term called a prono, as in, can I get a prono on this? Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, Susio Bambang Yudhoyono, Huma Huma Nuku Nuku Apu Aa. Those are some of the terms I've needed a prono for. But there's one man, at least, who probably doesn't need to practice as much as I do to say these words on air. And he's the subject of today's great big story.
Pardon me, Professor. Maybe you can help me out here. Is this word pronounced cash or cachet?
Cash.
Appreciate it, Doc. You see, when Jock Bailey pronounces a word, he pronounces it right. He can pronounce this thing.
Smaragdin.
He can pronounce this thing.
Scherenschnitte.
He even pronounces words that don't make a lick of sense.
Albumin.
And when you're that good with words, sooner or later someone's going to pay you to say them.
Hi, Dr. Bailey.
This is Jock Bailey, the official pronouncer of the National Spelling Bee.
Luxembourg.
Luxe.
Gala. Sherbet. Gyro. GIF.
Before Jock's days as the world's foremost pronouncer of persnickety words, he began his spelling career on the other side of the microphone. Jock was a competitive speller, and in 1980, he found himself in the finals of the Scripps National Spelling Bee. His word? Elucubrate. So he said,
Elucubrate. And it means to burn the midnight oil, to study all night.
And with those 10 letters, Jock became a champion. 23 years later, Jock had elucubrated all the way to the big show.
Propiophenone. Roquefort. Pyroclastic.
Can I please have the definition?
But sometimes, even Jock's meticulous pronunciations don't tell the whole story.
English words are not always spelled as they sound. One thing that makes English words really hard to spell is the schwa. The schwa is that like in butter or unutterable.
The Y in syringe, the A in balloon, the O in freedom. They all sound the same spoken out loud. A speller's nightmare.
The longer and weirder a word is, the easier it is to spell. Take the state fish of Hawaii, the huma huma nuku nuku apua'a. That's an easy word to spell. It's just long. It's a weird word, and weird things stand out and are easier to remember.
Onomasia, paranomasia.
Correct.
Let's go.
For a man with perhaps the most legitimate claim as the authority on pronunciation, Jock takes a rather agnostic approach to the right and wrong ways to say things.
A lot of people are kind of amazed that I know how to pronounce all these words, but I don't. I read them from the dictionary. Well, how does the dictionary know how to pronounce a word? Because they go out there and listen to native speakers. If there are a whole bunch of people who pronounce a word a certain way, that makes it a correct pronunciation. People who have very strong opinions that there's an incorrect way to pronounce a word, but it's like saying, that dog barked wrong. That's not a bark. Well, the dog gets to decide.
Thanks, Jock. I reckon you got more wisdom than all the books in the library.
When flying over an ice shelf in the northern Antarctic Peninsula, it's normal for observers to see chunks of ice like this. What's unusual is when they spot something like this, a rectangular sheet of ice that looks like it was stamped out by a giant cookie cutter. NASA says it's natural, and a marine glaciologist says the structure of the sheet's snow crystals and how they break apart is what's responsible for the sheet's special shape. Glad we have the ice beginnings of an explanation. It's the ISASA least we could do. Don't want to fall into the trapezoid of having a mystery we couldn't untangle, especially with something in such good shape that it'd go viral on Insta Parallelogram. I'm Carl Azuz, squaring things up on CNN 10.